Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
I did.
I think it's these two supermajorities and out of single-party rule of state government, because I think it's about time to pronounce. Let's look and see what the governor proposed in his State of the State address. Even of the divisive and unnecessary marriage amendment, and his own party has changed it and drugged the debate on change in the business personal property tax, a repeal of it. His own party has neutered it and is continuing to weaken it every day. And then one bold proposal that he had was to have a investment in Indiana's future children that need preschool. And that is being turned into a study committee over in the Senate. Not only do they reject their own governor's bad ideas, they take the time to propose any bad ideas of their own. The people deserve a vision, they deserve leadership, they deserve more. A legislature that's spending its time here jaw-jacking with the lobbyists and not actually trying to implement a vision. Yet another very rich man came in with a big and stuck his hand out for more taxpayer money to build yet another sports venue. That's not economic development, that's not vision. The dessert cart rolls by. That's not what we're here to do. It's not an investment in our middle class. It seems like they simply want to do a lot more studies, but I submit to you, if that's all they want to do is study things, we could be studying how to do a statewide is done to better implement the Affordable Care Act. We could be setting politics aside, setting the rhetoric aside, and think about how to actually the costs and benefits of a tuition freeze, whether that might make college more affordable. We might think about how to invest in our recent graduates in science, technology, education, and mathematics, and how to keep them here in Indiana. Parents pay for their college. We could be studying how to limit the damage of these privatization fiascos, things that were sexual assault. Our priorities are out of whack. We have how many weeks left in the session, John?
4.
4 weeks. Complete belly flop that has been up to this point. We have alternatives. We have ways that we can work to make Indiana better, but what we're doing now isn't it. It's simply just biding time until the final bell and one of the random members on the other side of the aisle stands up to make a sine die motion. That's not leadership, that's just hanging.
Can you expound on your opposition to the soccer stadium?
It's about priority. You know, if you're working on countless other things to help the middle class, to invest in new skills, to make sure that we keep our best so we can shine the lures that are going to bring new high-paying, not leadership or economic development. We're really working on.
Members of your caucus voted for that, right, in committee?
If something is presented as an individual idea, but it's my job to point out the other things that we could be doing. And I will say that members of the Marion County delegation were not even... somebody just showed up and talked about new taxpayer financing for yet another sports venue. It had how we should be doing things around here. And at minimum, that's not any kind of leadership. That's people being able to get access to get their number one issues discussed, while at the same time, people that really have needs, that don't have access to this building, are...
The Democratic ideas.
Well, wait a second. We've talked about statewide Indiana, doing the healthcare expansion, raising the minimum wage, and to vote to recommend on a minimum wage increase. How about ways that we can invest in our best and brightest? We have tax relief here that's presented or offered up for everyone on the planet except some of our best and brightest. We could have had an income tax holiday for our best and brightest that stay here after they graduate. On an individual vote, I'm not going to be a big baby about it. I understand. But you know what? Over time, you should listen to each other and adopt some of the philosophy, doing things better. And the fact of the matter is even the ideas that their own governor has proposed, they're not even taking. And again, I come back to the original question. What are the people of Indiana getting out of this one? They're not getting anything that's going to expand the middle class, and they're not getting anything that's providing any true vision for what Indiana...
Comprehensive pre-K study is a victory because it could help pave the way for something to happen next year. You don't see it that way?
Really? really, we've been studying and analyzing investments in the young, and we still haven't even fully done full-day kindergarten. Now, this was something that I'm not sure was at the list of my priorities, but it's affordable childcare, so they can learn something, get off to a good start in school, and hopefully become costly students as the years roll on, and maybe turn into something great and the type of person that's going to be a future leader of Indiana. What studies are, it's a way to have the lobbyists roll in here to get their day in court so they can go back and it's part of the process, but that's not leadership.
You don't think it's a way?
Okay. Well, Jim Shella, if you think that investment in our, then yeah, I suppose that's going to save you a little bit of money. But of course, we've seen other ways that they're willing to spend money. The dissipation of governor suggests the dissipation of $1 billion in local tax revenue, and then was open to the opportunity of using. We see lots of priorities for using tax dollars. They aren't necessarily ones that help.
A bill that would create sports development in Allen County. We've done that in, I believe, Evansville. Obviously,
right, for others here in Indiana. This Fort Wayne issue has been around for quite some time. It's been discussed, and all of a sudden we're.
Governor today at the NGA is on Chuck Todd this morning. Wouldn't rule out a run for president, so squared up with running for president.
Well, I feel bad for him this session. I mean, I don't particularly like his ideas. As a matter of fact, I thought that to be a leader in setting aside the marriage amendment, which he failed to do. As a matter of fact, even caused it to continue now for another couple of years. And the business personal property tax idea was absolutely the wrong idea at the wrong time. Now, having said those things, and instead what we've seen from the supermajorities in his own legislature is not even to try to move his own ideas forward. Offered any ideas of their own, except, pitter patters of whatever latest lobbyist whispered in their ear. That's not economic development. That's not investing in our middle class. That's not big ideas.
Of some of his, accoutrements in the Senate. So, without commenting on the Senate Republican caucus, how will you handle a member inside the elected as Delpez?
Well, those things, Tom, those things always have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. And true leadership is what happens behind closed doors when you're able to reason with people. Now, having said that, sometimes people accept reasoning at different speeds. And I do want to remark about my and that's not insincere. I've known Mike Delp longer than any other member of the General Assembly here. And he is a good person. And if you need, but Mike understands that words have consequences. And where you're really being what you believe, that means you have to accept the consequences of that courage. If you're not willing to accept the consequences, it's not courage. So I will say in closing about my Indiana politics, semi-interesting. And I always thank him for that. Well, I'm not going to. Certainly, those with strong feelings about being proponents of voters. But I suppose across the aisle they have to wonder if those folks sitting out an election or two. Frankly, I just don't know the consequences, Abdul. There's only one way to deal with an issue as important as I but didn't, and that's to deal with it straight up. You express your philosophy, and you let the people be the decision makers. But I think what the people are clearly deciding is that they wanted this thing set aside, and now they're going to be regrettable at best.
Now that the proposed amendment is one sentence, and just the definition.
Well, I think depending on what the people of Indiana say in the 2016, it's possible that this issue just sort of dissipates and fritters away. I don't know if that's going to happen yet, but the people of Indiana are going to have an opportunity to this issue set aside. But if that message isn't sent, then I think it's going to continue to fester. It's going to continue to be.
On the soccer stadium, you said it was fair to question up now and in the way that it did. What do you think the answer is?
What do I think the answer is? How about study? It's okay to discuss things about soccer stadiums when you're doing other stuff, but they're not doing anything else. That's the problem. It just exists in a vacuum, and when you're not investing in your work-field problems, I think it's fair to question what their priorities for economic development are. And I guess it's more.
Not the first time something's been thrown into another.
Yeah, I know, and I've not been lost in the process in the past. This isn't how you do things, particularly when there's millions of dollars in taxpayer money at stake. You have to think, what are the opportunity costs? What are the other things that we could be doing with those dollars?
Staunch about not reopening the budget, not spending any money, but they also using revenue. For instance, in the soccer stadium bill, that would reduce revenue to the state, as well as corporate tax, things like that. What do you think about that sort of interplay?
Frankly, we're always talking about ways that we can, allow for greater revenue generation through economic development, and many of the benefits that would come along with that. But they're not interested in those, in hampering government's ability to do the things that it can do effectively, that help our middle class and help people get into the middle class.
On your text.
Fortunate, just because something is my idea, they don't want to do it. I'm happy to give them the idea and let them take credit for it. Accomplish a thing of consequence, not just for 2014, but for the future. Remind ourselves, this place needs to be about the future. If our public sector cannot look towards the future, term decay, and the type of decay that unfortunately we may not even be able to notice as it's going on.
Are you surprised that the governor doesn't express more disappointment at some of the things he lists as priority items, not perhaps being fully taken up by the General Assembly?
Makes me wonder how badly he wants some of his own initiatives passed. Is he happy just to say them and let the legislature set them as possible outcomes? But there are times that I would expect that he's searching to see if governors have a little more power and influence than maybe he perceives. Governor, I've seen, maybe he doesn't feel like he can get tough with these two super majorities, but I've seen it happen, and I've seen more. Well, his predecessor knew what power he had. Times I felt that he did it, and other governors have done it too.
Scott, if HR 3 comes back up next session, with the way that you've 10 years, do you think it would pass or has a chance of failing, or?
Yeah, I do. I think it would have a chance. The debate has changed in one significant way. Many of the debates used to surround nuance. Sentence was the cause of most of them. And now the debate has morphed into a little bit more of a black or white one. Are you it's just going to go away? And I think people are going to continue to question. I got to tell you what, my little part of LaPorte and Porter County, up where I live, attitudes have definitely changed things. And they do want us talking about other stuff. And Abdul, I think, reason in that regard. Hope the libertarians see the light.
Not a libertarian.
But no, I always thought you were.
How long until we see?
That's hard to tell. I think that's going to depend on the public. That's going to depend on the public. And certainly, as we've said here, look, let's set aside this debate, this divisive debate at this time, for the current state of affairs. But as people continue to listen to their constituents, as today when that might change, even in a very traditional state like Indiana.
Do you guys have any plans to try anything this year, like to maybe take out the part of the law that doesn't recognize same-sex marriages performed in other states?
Okay, can you?
Bans gay marriage, but it also refuses to recognize gay marriages performed in other states. Would you guys try anything like a second reading amendment?
My caucus, those are very, very important things. But I do say that would still policy issues that we're going to have to grapple with at some point. Because if we don't grapple with them, those activist judges that we hear so many.
How do you spell jaw-jacking?
Jawjacking.
Just jacking.
Everyone, you've been terrific today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.